So those of you that follow astrology will immediately know from the title, as soon as you see the word shock, to which you can add unexpected, for example, the planet is Uranus. And before I go to the chart in question, the chart of the orange gaslight, let me tell you a story about this planet because I think you'll find it very interesting. And in fact, two stories. The first one originates many years ago when I was only a few years into astrology and already knew enough that this planet had certain correlations. And there was this TV show where they invited several astrologers, gave them a chart, and wanted them to figure out what was unusual about the person with that chart. It was an accurate chart and so forth. And the astrologers looked at the chart and noticed that Uranus in the chart was connected to everything, or to most planets in the chart, but with a quality of danger together with safety or with ease, which in astrology terms amounts to having, let's say, maybe a square or an opposition or a conjunction of some kind, which could be tricky in many cases, but also sextiles and trines. So long story short, they said, we think this guy has probably been hit by lightning. And the reason is Uranus as correlated with lightning. Uranus was discovered in 1781 and correlates with the discovery of electricity, and it rules electricity, all things electrical, hence all things shocking, for example, literally, but also lightning. Lightning itself is uranian. And so, sure enough, the person reported that they had been hit by lightning multiple times and survived. In each case, in one case, the ray went right through their hat. I mean, it was really unusual. I think something like 4 or 5 times. And they lived to tell the tale. Now, recently I came into another uranian tale, the kind of thing that really illuminates the way this planet works. And it was reported by astrologer Ray Grass, as told to him by either one of his students or a person he knows who knew enough about their chart to say that the person knew Uranus in its transit was in an exact conjunction to their sun. You have to keep in mind this planet has an 84-year cycle. So it's not going to be over your sun degrees every day, in quotes. It'll be there at some point in your life. And it's relatively rare. It's an unusual type of transit, pretty rare. And so person said, I had Uranus conjunct the sun. They give the month and year when it happened. And then they report that right around that time, driving to a dentist appointment, they hit a patch of black ice, lost control of the car. The car knocked down 2 mature trees and the major electrical pole for the area. And then there were flames and live cables on the hood of the car. Person gets out of the car. The current jumped a few feet away and basically hit the snow, but it was very close to the person. And the person further said that morning she was going to wear a pair of loafers, but got the message to put on my rubber boots because the weather might get worse. So therefore, the boots saved her life because, as she says, I passed through 38,000 volts of electricity that morning and my boots grounded me. So, again, I haven't seen that chart, but I would suspect there would be some protective angle to save her life because Otherwise, for example, if you get that kind of incident with Uranus in squares or oppositions only, it could prove lethal. So this illustrates in a very, very stark way how this planet works, but at the same time, it is the ruler of electricity, and separately, it correlates closely with democracy, or the idea of the individual having power within the group. So the group is very important, but so is the individual. That's exactly what Uranus resonates with, particularly in its association to Aquarius, even though I use Saturn as the first ruler of Aquarius, still the ancient ruler, I definitely assign at minimum an association to Aquarius, Uranus, or you could call it a co-rulership. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's there, and this planet is definitely connected to the democratic impulse. Democracies, well, the American democracy starts right around then. A few years before Uranus is discovered, you're in the zone where things happen. That's how astrology works. People are always looking for the precise thing, and they think only from that point can this thing happen. Not at all. If you're in the zone, things sometimes happen a little before, such as, for example, in eclipses and some of the things I've said in prior videos. Don't let it fool you. It's how it works. It's the zone. So democracy, in a sense, starts there. Then it does need Neptune's discovery in 1843 to further move the democratic impulse in a strong direction, whereupon you get more and more countries becoming democratic. So in this sense, Uranus is almost like a bitter enemy of Pluto, where Pluto is much more inclined to domination patterns and therefore fascism. So all of this just to give you a bit of a story about Uranus, but now we turn to what is happening in the chart of the Orange Menace. And you already heard me talk about this in the November video, in which I said it's mostly difficult with some positive due to the fact that there's that Saturn-Jupiter trine and all of that. But I already mentioned there that one of the reasons it's a dicey month is that Uranus, which has been in Gemini for some time and is now retrograding back to re-enter Taurus November 8th, whereupon it'll be in Taurus, backtracking until it stations in early February, around 27 plus Taurus. Then it goes forward again into Gemini and enters Gemini mid-spring, and from there it stays in Gemini for the next 7 or so years. Now, for the Orange Maniac, his problem is that all of this has Uranus near the top of the chart, pretty much at the zenith. Now, this in part already explains why he's behaving so erratically and in such a self-willed way. No rules, I do whatever I want, which means I can publish videos of myself pooping on people. I can tear the side of the White House apart and build whatever ballroom, all of this stuff that he's been linked to recently. There's definitely a Uranian quality in there, 100% around the, as I say, I go my own way. I don't listen to anybody or anything, and and then of course also the erratic behavior. But up there, what it's doing is it's making a square to the ascendant and to Mars. And for people that don't know what that is, it's stressful. When you have a square, yes, squares can be dynamic and help you get things done. He's doing plenty. And with Saturn around, getting things done becomes more and more difficult. So the point is, particularly when you have an extended period of time with square energy like this to such an important point in the chart, things can go wrong, and often shockingly, unexpectedly, and spectacularly, right? Including probably most importantly in terms of danger to his health, because you notice the Uranus opposes the moon at birth, and the moon, yes, it's in Sagittarius, 5th house, that's a good place for that moon, but the moon rules the 12th, which is 12th is when you go to the hospital. It's a dangerous house. So that Uranus, opposing the moon, signals the possibility that at some point you get an unexpected health event, even if, of course, if you're hearing me say this, in a sense, it's expected in some way through the astrological lens, but to the world at large, it still remains unexpected. So Uranus is backtracking into Taurus as of November 8th. That's a direct hit on the ascendant, but if you add a degree on either side, which is the minimum orb you would, when you're doing calculations, you know the exact point, but you can go a little before, a little after at minimum. That puts it already in play since third week of September, because it's already close enough to that ascendant. Then all through November, it's, even though it's in Taurus and moves back, continues to square the ascendant, and really doesn't let go of that ascendant that much, because December, then it's a little further back. It starts to already connect with the Mars, which is in degrees that a little bit earlier. In particular, when you get to the station, February 4th or so, that zone is super dangerous, let's say mid-January to mid-February, because Uranus is stationary doing a direct hit on his Mars. So that's big, big, big. And then from there, it goes forward, and it'll be at least May, June before it lets go of its grip on the ascendant in that case, because by the time it goes forward, it leaves the Mars and then works on the ascendant. And if you then think, in the unlikely event that zero happens and nothing has really rattled him majorly, like this aspect is promising, then Saturn by then is squaring his Mercury. There's no way out. There's no way out of this. Things are going to get super dicey one way or the other. And if you add to this that we also have the American moon is at 27 Aquarius in the Sibley chart, and if you do the precession correction for a 250-year entity like this country, then that 27 degrees is the natal position, but it's in degree force all the way into 3 degrees later. So it drags that Uranus forward and means the country is subject to big unexpected events pretty much all year in 2026. So that's the bottom line on that one. I'll end by telling you another quick story about Uranus, which you may know, but it's interesting. Discovered in 1781, but it was discovered by William Herschel, an astronomer at the time. And he was connected in some way to the court of King George, so he proposed to call the planet George. Can you imagine? We'd be talking about George in Taurus or George in Gemini or whatever. But as always happens with astronomy and astrology, it's so ironic that though astronomers almost never subscribe or even approve of astrology, they always find a way to basically walk into the synchronicity, the magical synchronicity of the universe, and they name it what it is. They find a way to bring in the name. And so a separate astronomer, a German astronomer named Johann Bode, he argued for the fact that, no, we shouldn't call it George, or we shouldn't call it Herschel, because that was the other thing. The initial thing was Herschel was going to call it by his own name. He said, no, we should call it Uranus, because Uranus is there's no planet yet called Uranus, and Uranus is the ancient Greek god of the sky, blah, blah, blah. So that's how it acquired its name. All right, that's all for now. More soon. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you.